I have remade this video on this topic of joy versus happiness about 2 other times now. So this is my 3rd time. I didn't like the other videos. Can I just be real with you guys? Can I be honest with you guys? At the beginning stages of writing my very first book, the only reason why I even, had the idea to put my books out there or to put my personal story out there, because I never thought that I was ever going to write an autobiography, you guys, never. But, like a couple people was telling me, putting it in my head, planting those seeds, and it was just, a growth, a flourishing that happened afterwards. I was like, oh yes, okay, I'm going to write it. But the whole reason of what gave me the courage to actually put my story out there, because if you haven't read my story, it's very traumatic. If you have been through domestic violence, I wouldn't recommend you read it if you're still in the healing process, because it can induce, a lot of stress. But yeah, the only reason why I actually put everything out there and bared it all, okay, like that first story was my raw diary from 2015. And then, shaken to become unshaken was all of my feelings and, traumatic things that's ever happened to me up until, that point. So, I was gonna end it all. I had the idea, okay, I'm gonna release these books and then I'm going to, end my life pretty much. But at least my legacy would be out there, people, if they had questions of why I did it, read my book. It was kind of like a very lengthy suicide note. That's not funny, but it was like a very lengthy thing. So, sometimes I laugh when I'm nervous or to shoo away the anxiety. But if you guys don't know, I do struggle with anxiety and depression, and I don't like to say I struggle with it because I believe in manifestation. And if you have ever had depression or anxiety, it's not a thing that you welcome, But anywho, I'm going to try not to get emotional. This is why I did not, ever talk about this, because I always said, like, man, do I want to get to the point of having so much strength when I tell my story, I don't want to cry when I tell my story. So the reason why I actually even want to share this, or why it's on my heart to share it, is because I spoke about it, for the first time. I went to a rehab treatment center, and, I go there with people from my church, and I, fellowship with the people there, minister to the people, share my story, listen to their story. And I always get something out of it. And I just pray to God that, someone gets something out of what I say. But I was sharing my story, and I was so nervous. And I was sharing how, throughout previous years, let me just say that I don't struggle with this today, but throughout the previous years, like my whole life, I have struggled with the spirit of suicide and wanting to end my life, but not having enough courage to do it, But now I know that there's a reason why, I never went through with it. But I was sharing with them, how I've been in mental health, crises, and had to go to outpatient programs for my mental health, even inpatient programs for my mental health. And that was because, you know, I struggled with the spirit of suicide. So yeah, I actually, and then what popped up on my memories from my photos is actually a video that I made from 2016. It was a suicide video, and I was in so much crises and just distress, and it was, I didn't watch it because I just remember that time, I remember. So I don't have to watch something that I made. I'm like, okay. But also, it brings up a lot of other, feelings of just like, oh, poor girl. Like, I wish I could hug her, So anywho, as I wrote my books and as I began to process things, as I, got a therapist and began to process things with her, as I got connected more in my faith, with a church, the church I go to now, I started to realize like that spirit of suicide started to, kind of go away. So I am so happy that I don't struggle with the spirit of suicide today, but I still remember that feeling. And it is sad to me, it does make me emotional. It makes me emotional when a stranger, tells me that they want to take their life, Like, that makes me emotional because it's like, I know what that feels like. Anyhow, it was something that one of my pastors were preaching at church, and he was talking about the events that's happening in Palestine and Israel. And it was one particular woman whose husband had passed away, and I think she was like hugging her mom or close family member, and she was like crying in their arms. But also, as she was telling them her husband's last moments, she was laughing, like there was a joy in her. And she was saying, talking about her husband, he didn't deny Christ. He didn't deny Christ. And she just kept repeating that. And my pastor was talking about joy. And then I went to my life group afterwards from church, and they were talking about, they asked the simple question, do you know the difference between happiness and joy? And then it just got me down this rabbit hole of dealing with depression, dealing with suicidal thoughts in the past, dealing with anxiety, and yeah. So happiness is an outward expression. Joy is inner. Happiness is a state of being. It's liable to change from sad, mad, angry, happy again. It's liable to change. Joy is inner peace, and it tethers you to something. If you have joy, you're tethered to something that brings you joy in the inside. And the thing that I'm tethered to is God and His Word. And that brings me joy. Even when I am so uncomfortable, or if I'm struggling with something, I look in my Bible and I flip through the pages and I just read until I find something that brings me a comfort, even though I'm uncomfortable. If that makes sense. It's an inner work that you have to do and you have to come to. And I'm going to show you guys in a minute some self-care techniques, a crises plan for anything that you're dealing with if you're in crises with your mental health. In a minute, I'm going to get back to it. But I say, joy versus happiness because for the longest time, my whole life, for years, I was stuck in this endless cycle of ups and downs, like feeling anxious for something, but nothing at all. Like it was just a whirlwind of a roller coaster, of a tornado, of a hurricane, whatever you want to call it. You know, when you are in crises, you will know, because you're grabbing at things, asking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people for advice at once. Like, it's chaotic. Okay, when you don't know how to deal with something that's happening in here, and man, like, if you know, you know. But anywho, so I dealt with that for years. You know, every time I would get happiness, I would lose the happiness, and I could not figure out why. And it was so frustrating, you guys. Okay, like, it is so frustrating. Like, up until, I kid you guys not, you know, 2 Sundays ago, I didn't know the difference between joy versus happiness. And it, like, that word with the lady and her husband spoke to me so deeply, because it's like, I knew there was a comfort, you know, in God's word, or a comfort in, you know, what comforts you. But it's like, I didn't, you know how, like, you could be close to people and, you know, your own family can tell you things and or your best friend can tell you things, but it takes a certain word, it takes a divine intervention, a special place, a special way of saying it, and a special person to say it. You know, like, you can hear it in different ways, but sometimes you won't click. You know, it won't click for you until it's the right moment, right timing, right person. Okay? And that's just what happened. It was a deeper meaning. And I was like, oh, joy versus happiness. There is a difference. And it's a process, you guys. I'm not saying I got this 2 weeks ago overnight. No, this has been years in the making, you know, years in the making, since 3 years ago when I got my therapist and, you know, was on the right track 3-4 years ago. It has been a long process. Sometimes it could take months, weeks, years of healing. It just depends on you. But this has been years in the making for me, you guys. Of multiple things that brought me to this point. But I don't struggle with the spirit of suicide anymore, but I do struggle with depression, which has been so heavy on me, and I have to share this with you guys. If you look at my social media, even if you look at this YouTube channel, you'll see, like, I'm pumping out videos, pumping out content, you know, week after week. Sometimes, you know, 4 times a week, multiple times a month, you know. But then for months, I won't produce anything at all. And I've come to the conclusion where I just have to be real with you and real with myself. You know, I got to be real with myself. I be depressed. Your girl be depressed, okay? I was and you guys, if you guys know about me, I was diagnosed with major depression in 2018. And it has been something that I've dealt with my entire life, that has been recurring. And as much as I want to say, oh, that's not I'm not going to say my depression, because it's not mine. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to deal with it. But the fact of the matter is that these things are real. These things have to be dealt with head on. And, you know, I do everything in my power to try to deal with it and get it done and stuff. But sometimes, you know, your girl doesn't Sometimes your girl gets depressed, you know? And I'm struggling with the point of these ups and downs, with coming to a conclusion or solution for these ups and downs, you know? And I was getting discouraged again. And I was like, oh, come on, Jonna, you just got out of this funk. Do not go back. You know, I'm looking at myself. I'm like, do not, please. I'm pleading with myself. Please don't go back. But then it's like something I try to control. And I realized the only way that I can get a grip or control about it is doing self-care, you know, with my spirituality, and making a plan for myself, doing vision boards, and giving myself a timeline to get things done, as well as a goal. And this is what I also do with my clients. And it's helpful for myself. And I just pray that it's also helpful for them. So let's get back into this crises plan that I was telling you guys about. So the first one is thriving. I got this. So it's calm and steady with minor mood fluctuations. These are the different states that you can be in when it comes to mental health or struggling with a traumatic incident. So calm and steady with minor mood fluctuations, able to take things in stride, consistent performance, able to take feedback and adjust to changes of plans, able to focus, able to communicate effectively, normal sleep patterns, and appetite. So this is when you have a traumatic event and, you know, you're able to navigate it in a healthy way. And then there is surviving. Something isn't right. Nervousness, sadness, increased mood fluctuations, inconsistent performance, more easily overwhelmed or irritated, increased need for control and difficulty adjusting to changes, trouble sleeping or eating, activities and relationships you used to enjoy seem less interesting or even stressful, muscle tension, low energy headaches. And then there is struggling. I can't keep this up. Persistent fear, panic, anxiety, anger, persuasive sadness, hopelessness, exhaustion, poor performance, and difficulty making decisions or concentrating. Avoiding interaction with coworkers, family, and friends, fatigue, aches, and pains, restless, disturbed sleep, self-medicating with substances, food, or other numbing activities. And then there is when you are in crises. So this is, I can't survive this. Disabling distress and loss of function, panic attacks, nightmares or flashbacks, unable to fall or stay asleep, intrusive thoughts of self-harm or suicide, easily enraged or aggressive, careless, mistakes, and inability to focus, feeling numb, lost, or out of control. Withdrawal from relationships, dependence on substances, food, or other numbing activities to cope. So let's talk about making sense of the traumatic event. Once the distressing event is over, you may find yourself trying to make sense of the event. This can include thinking about how and why it happened, how and why you were involved, why you feel the way you do, whether feelings you are having indicate what kind of person you are, whether the experience has changed your view on life, and how. And let's get into the mental reactions to trauma. So mental reactions to trauma include reduced concentration and memory, intrusive thoughts about the event, repeatedly replaying parts of the event over in the mind, confusion or disorientation. Then we have emotional reactions to trauma. Emotional reactions to trauma include fear, anxiety, and panic, shock, difficulty believing in what has happened, feeling detached and confused, feeling numb and detached, not wanting to connect with others or becoming withdrawn from those around you, continuing alarm, feeling like there is a danger is still there or the event is continuing, letdown. After the crisis is over, exhaustion may become obvious. Emotional reactions to the event are felt during the letdown phase. And this includes depression, avoidance, guilt, oversensitivity, and withdrawal. Physical reactions to trauma. Traumatic experiences can result in physical reactions including fatigue or exhaustion, disturbed sleep, nausea, vomiting, and dizziness, headaches, excessive sweating, increased heart rate. Then we have behavioral reactions to trauma. Common behavioral reactions to trauma include avoiding reminders of the event, inability to stop focusing on what occurred, getting immersed in recovery-related tasks, losing touch with normal daily routines, changing appetite, such as eating a lot more or a lot less, turning to substances such as alcohol, cigarettes, and coffee, sleeping problems. Then we have a personal crises plan, which is right here. I'm gonna put it right here. This is a thing that you're gonna fill out just because writing down things for me personally makes me feel a lot better just looking at, okay, what do I need to accomplish? Like, what's the treatment plan? Where are we going? I'm a very detailed orientated person, so I love to write things down. So this is good for me. Hopefully it's good for someone. So the first one is, I know I'm triggered when I notice, and then you write down those, the things that you notice, what triggers you. Like, I know what triggers me to go into maybe anxiety is confrontation. I'm not a confrontational person, so that induces anxiety. So I would write confrontation there. And then it says some good ways to distract myself are, you could put some of your self-care methods there. Like, I like to get my nails done. But anywho, some safe people I can reach out to are, you could reach out to a therapist. You could reach out to Jesus. You could reach out to whoever is safe, your best friend, whoever is safe to you. And then it says things that help me when I feel this way are, and we want to put positive things there, you guys. Not, if cigarettes help you out, listen, we want to put some positive things on there, some things that have positive effects on your body and mental health, like maybe going to the park, taking a walk, and then ways to keep myself and my space safe. I like to do home decorating. I love to do house decorating, and it makes me feel very at home and like, if it's my safe space. Other resources I can use to get my self-care, and then, you can write those things down as well. So let's get into different types of self-care. So there is physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal, space, financial, and work. So, types of self-care, you guys can go ahead and read it right here. But there's a lot of different types of self-care that helps with your mental health as well. So I just wanted to share that I was actually on a therapy call yesterday, and some of this information was in the slides, and I wanted to share these gems with you guys. You guys can also go ahead and, look on Google for this information as well. It should be there if you want a more in-depth description of things. So anywho, you guys, I'll put the link in my bio for you guys. So you guys, look at your success process, and you guys stay blessed. Thank you so much for listening to my journey. I am so happy to share my journey with you. And you guys, if you guys have any questions, write it in the comments below. If you guys, want me to do another video on something else, write it in the comments below, or expand on something, write it. Let me know, so I know it's reaching someone, getting to someone, and these videos are being helpful. It helps me to continue to do it. So enjoy your day, you guys. Stay blessed.